Good morning, afternoon, or evening, everyone. It's Mr. Mott. I'm going to go through the lab called Determining a Rule for Dissolving. So what we're going to do is going to go through several substances, and we're going to write down whether they're soluble in water or they're soluble in hexane, or possibly both. Okay, so we'll do this in the order that we're on page 34, and we're going to write down if it's S for soluble or I for insoluble in that solvent. In blue, the blue label are going to be, as we can kind of see here, we've got, let me get on the screen here, we've got water and we have hexane. Okay, so the solvent is water in the blue label, and for hexane it is going to be the yellow label. So as we can see here, we've got copper sulfate, and copper sulfate is going to be soluble, S for in water, and in hexane is insoluble. No matter how much we shook this or stirred it, the hexane would not dissolve the copper sulfate. So that's our first one, copper sulfate. Our next one is NaCl, otherwise known as table salt. And we should recognize, hopefully, that table salt should be soluble in water and insoluble in hexane. So S for soluble for water and insoluble in hexane. That's NaCl. The next one is going to be methanol. Okay, and for methanol is actually not normally green. We just dye it because it's easier to see. And methanol is soluble in water but insoluble in hexane. Okay. All right. The next one after that is urea. And urea is found in your urine, so we would expect it to be soluble in water, which it is. We don't see any solid in there. However, in hexane, it is insoluble. We see some undissolved solid in there, so we know it's hexane, or urea is insoluble in hexane. All right. Our next one we're going to look at is transmission fluid. Okay. So transmission fluid is red in color, and we can see that in water, transmission fluid is insoluble. We see a layer of it. However, in hexane, it is all dissolved. We have a uniform color there. It's all dissolved in hexane. The next one we're going to look at is NH4Cl, which is ammonium chloride. And we can see that ammonium chloride is soluble in water, no undissolved chemical. Okay. However, in hexane, ammonium chloride is insoluble. Next, we have ethanol. And ethanol is an interesting chemical because it is soluble in both. We see that we mix ethanol in water. It's insoluble in both. We don't have any layers, anything like that. Ethanol is a liquid. It's the alcohol found in booze. And our last one is naphthalene. Some people know this as mothballs. And we've got naphthalene here. We got some solid in there that will not dissolve in water. Okay. And then in hexane, though, naphthalene is soluble. We don't see any solids in there at all. Okay. Now, once we do this, we can look at our rule for dissolving. And so far, what we have is we have our results here from our lab, and we see that copper sulfate is soluble. So most of these things are soluble in water, but not in hexane. Water is a universal solvent, so it dissolves a lot of things. All right. And so what we have next is to discuss what is our rule for dissolving. Okay.